Good afternoon. My name is Kelsey Perry Sherman, and today I'd like to take a few minutes to talk to you about what I feel could help impact education and the world in a greater way. My idea is to focus more on the individual genius of each student. As we all know, there are several different geniuses. Not every person is academically inclined. For instance, I am horrible at math. I've been horrible at math my entire life. Well, the basic adding and subtracting, multiplication and division wasn't that hard to me. But once we get into factoring and the percentages of stuff, that is just not something that I've ever been good at. Now, ask yourself, how many times in your adult life have you actually used factoring? You haven't, have you? Because it's not something that's a necessity in life. I think K through 5th grade, elementary school, should focus on the core curriculum, such as math with the adding, subtracting, multiplying, division, and maybe a little bit of algebra, because that is also implemented on a daily basis as an adult. Reading, writing, knowledge of our country and its geography and even the history of it. I feel like although it shouldn't take more than 5 years to learn all the information that you need to know socially and academically for once you graduate from high school and you're thrown into the real world. Actually, when I use the term throw into the real world, I think technically now, with the way that our curriculum is set up, we are thrown into the real world. If we implement my idea of focusing on the individual genius of each student, by the time a student gets to 10th grade, they already know exactly what it is that they want to do and how they want to do it. So, elementary school, core curriculum. Now, once we get to middle school, I think that we should test these students. And when I say test, I don't mean a standardized test, because that specifically is another thing that is a problem with our education today. We focus so much on the basic academics that we group certain students off who aren't so great, who don't score so high on these tests, as slower or have special needs of some sort, when in fact that's not necessarily the case. It's just that's not what comes easy to them. Something else comes easy to them. They are a genius in another area, such as technology or music or the arts. So I think that once probably 5th grade going into 6th grade, there should be a test held for these students to help them figure out what it is that they're great at. And once they have determined what that is, focus on helping these students to develop that, helping them to figure out what it is that they want to do with that technical genius or that musical genius. Give them different classes for music, for example. We can have different classes on reading music and producing music, have these students playing different instruments. If you're a musical genius, this touches your soul. School doesn't become just a place for you to go during the day while your parents are at work that you dread. It becomes something a place where you can go and you can figure out who you are. And I think that that's really important for our society today. Nobody really knows who they are. If they weren't good at academics, they were told their entire lives that they weren't smart. When in fact, you are smart. There is something about you that you may not have figured out yet that is your genius. And I think in middle school, that's the time that we should take to help these students focus on what it is that they truly love that they don't even realize that they love yet. Now, once we get to high school, I think High school should be geared more towards practice in these specific geniuses. Now that you're in high school, you have become passionate about what it is that you are great at, what it is that gets you going, what it is that you can do to change the world. For instance, Steve Jobs, perfect example of a technical genius. I'm 90% sure that when Steve Jobs was in grade school, no one helped him to develop his technical skills. He had to do that on his own and be forced for 12 years to focus on something that I'm sure he really didn't even have any interest in. And we see what Steve Jobs has done for the world now. We have Apple products everywhere, all over the world. I can FaceTime, being here in Valdosta, I can turn my phone on and I can call my parents and I can see them face to face and have an entire conversation with them without even physically being with them. Without Steve Jobs and his technical genius, we wouldn't have this. Imagine what all we could have if we catered to these specific students who are good at these things, who this is what they're here for. This could change our world, not just our nation, but our world. I also think that in high school, it should help you to discover which route you'd like to take once you graduate and once you start your career. If you are an academic genius, let's say math is your specialty, there should be courses in high school for you to help you develop skills for a specific career, a career of your choosing. Let's say I'm a mathematical genius and I want to be an engineer. There should be courses in high school to help me develop what I need to know to become an engineer, or to the basic things that I would need to know before going to college to be an engineer. I think that implementing these things in education could change so much. If we just focus on each student, there is so much that each individual person in the United States of America can do for this country. But 90% of the people in the United States of America will never know that they could have made a difference in the world because they were never given the time to develop, or even the focus to help them develop what it is that they're good at to change or to make the difference in this country. And that's all I really have to say for now. If you have any more questions, you can definitely ask me. I enjoyed explaining to you what I feel like would help make the difference in education today, and I hope that it could one day be implemented. I know that things like this cost money. We would have to start from the bottom and just completely rebuild education as a whole. And it's definitely possible. It's absolutely possible. It just has to be important to our government because that's where the funds come from. So if we can help to get the government to agree that these sorts of things could help our society, maybe we can make a difference.